Yeah, and elaborate a little more on them, but still keep it pretty introductory. So yeah.
All right, good, good. And I think that you mentioned before in previous videos, I think I asked the question, like, what is the best time to do meditation? I think your answer was right when you get up in the morning, or at least that's what I remember anyway.
Yeah. So either very soon after waking up or pretty much immediately before going to sleep are, in my experience, the most effective moments for meditation. And as we speak and explain some of these different styles of meditation, we'll be able to see, where, yeah, in listening to all these different styles, one will be able to experiment for themselves and then get a better idea of, what might resonate for them and where might be a better time to do different meditations. Because some styles, certain techniques are more energizing in nature, uplifting, like exciting, and therefore maybe you don't want to do that right before going to sleep,
Right.
And then, on the flip side, others are very grounding, very relaxing, and maybe you don't want to do that after you wake up so you don't fall right back to sleep. So, as we explain and get into some of the specifics,
Okay.
we can speak on some of those different notions. Yeah. So to begin, the foundation is awareness, and the physical foundation is the breath. So the breath is, the breath is everything. So key to meditation, so key to just living, to well-being, to thriving, etc.
Right.
And there are countless different meditation or breath techniques to be used in meditation. Different things that can be done with the breath, different goals or objectives, if you will, that can be used using different breath techniques. So there's a very popular TED Talk describing three different pretty standard breath techniques. And I'll just reiterate and echo what that presenter had to say, because he presented it in a very memorable, easy way. He said there is the water, coffee, and whiskey breath.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned, different things that you do with the breath will result in different effects. So in knowing what the different effects will be, you can then curtail, the method to whatever you're seeking in that moment. So just for a general relaxation, a general recentering, a general mental cleansing, one can use this, what he refers to as the water breath. So the analogy is simply like water, stay hydrated.
Water. There we go.
There we go. Cheers. Water is excellent for, any time of the day and any quantity. And so this technique is to inhale for a certain number of counts. So let's say 4 breaths, and then exhaling for the same counts, in this case 4 breaths. So inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4, exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. And as I mentioned before, that's just a general centering, rebalancing, mental cleansing, bringing you into the present moment. This coffee technique, as he says, coffee can be great for, stimulus, energizing oneself, but you don't really want to be drinking coffee all day, every day.
Right. Caffeine. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Not before bed either.
Yes. So, for those who have taken yoga classes or done different practices related, similar, um, they might know the breath of fire, as it's referred to as. So, this refers to taking very rapid and quick exhalations and allowing the inhalations to do themselves. And in doing this, it is very stimulating, but it is cautioned to not overdo this because, and I highly doubt that anyone is about to overdo it. But what I mean by overdoing it is doing like hundreds of repetitions every single day.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
And there'd
that
be
could be
fast to be something very to get your
yeah.
almost get your heart rate up, I guess, the way you're describing it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, to demonstrate a little bit and just focusing on the exhale, I hope snot doesn't fly out of my nose. But it's like
Okay. Yeah.
so yeah. And in doing that, you are pumping your stomach out with each exhalation. And then on the inhale, the stomach will naturally recoil itself, the abdominal contracting back towards the spine. And again, that's an energizing breath, a coffee breath. And then this whiskey, um, more for that like relaxation and calming. And this is to uh, inhale for a certain number. So let's say 4. And then to exhale longer. So let's say 6. So inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. And then slower exhale, longer exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So,
And
so for these techniques, so that they serve a different purpose. Say
yes,
for the coffee would be when you're feeling maybe a little lethargic, you'd want to do that, I'm guessing, and then
absolutely.
the whiskey when you're feeling a little too overactive, you
Yeah.
use that technique. Okay.
So, for example, let's say I'm a little scatterbrained in the middle of the day.
Mm.
Water might be great for me. So, just the same number of inhales, same number of exhales to recenter myself. But let's say I'm starting the day, I'm just waking up, and I'm not so much of a morning person. Then the coffee breath, might be great. And you can either do that for a certain number of counts. So generally like 30, 60, 90 is done, or a certain amount of time. So maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute. Um, Also, as you mentioned, if it's the middle of the day, you're a little lethargic, this is a great technique to use. And then the whiskey, let's say you're a little anxious, at any points throughout the day. That's a great breath to use. And also before going to sleep, that's a great thing to do as well. And even myself, at different moments, um, if my mind is still a little active when I'm in bed and trying to go to sleep, I will do this breath technique, just focusing on very long exhales. And that very quickly calms the mind and allows me to slip to sleep very quickly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What about if you're doing those techniques and you fall asleep? Is that okay to do during? Is that a nighttime meditation? I know that I'm mentioning this because I know that when I've done yoga in the past, sometimes they use a similar pattern at the end of the yoga class, right? Maybe you do this,
Mhm.
you do some breathing, some calming breaths. And at one point I've fallen asleep. It doesn't usually happen very often, but I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah.
calm. I become so relaxed that I just fall
Indeed.
asleep.
If the situation, if the context, calls for it and it's all good, I think that's a delightful thing, just like allowing the body to really rest. Because if one slips into sleep, like at the end of a yoga class or in a meditation, it was probably the case that the body was already ready to sleep. It was more on the exhausted side than not. But often the case with people suffering from insomnia or things like this having difficulty sleeping,
Mm.
it is the mind that is not allowing the body to fall asleep. And so, in doing some of these different techniques, these meditations, the mind can recenter, can calm, rather than just go on a million tangents at 1,000 miles per hour. We can bring its focus, to a single point or towards that direction, because none of this is, so easy and a snap of a finger. But with time and practice, it works
Yeah,
out nice.
I can see that. I can see that being very beneficial for sure. Like you said, if that's an issue where the nonstop mental activity is preventing you from getting a good night's rest.
Yes, indeed, indeed. There is a very palpable, tangible, profound difference in my sleep quality when I meditate before sleeping and when I don't. Because again, in having and allowing the mind to settle to a greater degree, then the body is able to just access deeper levels of relaxation and therefore, get into a greater state of repair, restoration, rejuvenation, and those benefits are felt the next day.
Yeah,
So it's great.
That's the whole purpose of sleep, right? Is to repair, renew. So
Absolutely.
if it's only half happening at night because your mind is not getting into that rest state, I can completely understand what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And another important point, almost like a mindset point that I would want to add in here before we go into other techniques, is that, with meditation, with eating healthily, with doing exercise, physical activity, pretty much any kind of practice that we know is beneficial for us, there's often resistance,
Mm.
a reluctance, a
Right.
sense of laziness, and a perspective I learned once upon a time has been tremendous in helping me make progress in productive, pursuits that I've had. And it was speaking more specifically in regards to creation, like with artistic and creative endeavors, but I think the same still applies. And they said that the amateur or the beginner waits until they feel like it, or waits until they feel inspired to do, whereas the pro goes and sits down and begins and knows that then they'll start to feel like it, and so
Right.
that is to say that if just beginning out in this meditation journey and some of these different modalities, knowing that the resistance is assured, it's like a guarantee.
Right. I agree.
Like 100%, 100%. And just knowing that once you get into it a little bit, and even in the first session, your experience will change. The experience will transition and not stay static. I think that's another a half tangent, zooming out once again, that that's often a source of a lot of emotional and mental distress, is believing that one's current state is going to be perpetually forevermore. It's
Mm.
like I can have let's say a bad day, be a little on the sadder side, and then the mind slipping outside of the present into the future, I'm, whether consciously or unconsciously, projecting that the rest of my life is going to be like this. I'm never going to be happy again. And the same thing with these practices, like, oh, this is so hard, this is going to be hard for the rest of my life.
Right.
It's not worth it, it's so hard.
Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And it works both ways. So
Absolutely.
you either don't ever try techniques like this and you just become a victim or you're just reactionary to all the stimuli that's hitting you, or you work on some self-discipline. I suppose this is a form of self-discipline where you are controlling at least partially the environment that you're living in to the
Yes,
extent that you can.
absolutely. And with that, before we transition to the next technique, is an expression that I love a lot, a concept, if you will, which is self-discipline.
Say that again.
Self-discipline. So rather than bliss. And with this, it's just a shift, a mental little pivot that allows one to see the upliftment and the beauty that can be had through commitment and consistency.
Mm.
Because truly, if somehow I was able to get a preview experience for my present internal state years ago, before meditation,
Okay.
or let's say earlier in my journey when I knew a little bit about meditation, but I was very erratic with it, not very consistent whatsoever. If I was able to get that preview to the actual benefits and experience that, then absolutely I would have committed, just like gone through with it and be done with it and progressed. But and not having that, it's simply not available with anything that we do. It's a matter of faith, I suppose.
Yeah, is there any way for people to is there any way for them to get a preview of that experience?
I think just in singular experiences, whether it's like a great yoga class that you had and that zen that you feel at the end, in different little moments, knowing that feeling, that sensation, that state can in fact be pretty much your default, you know, um, but with practice, with the consistency.
Right.
And yeah, really the lifestyle shift, because and now knowing the benefits of meditation, it's integrated into my life, and a day won't pass that I'm not meditating. Like simply, it's just far too important for me to not do. So yeah, but and speaking of meditation, a second technique, or let's say branch of meditation, comes through body scans. And so, often is the case that as we've mentioned in previous videos, typically, generally, one can see anxiety as focusing on the future, on creating, fantasies of fear of the future.
Yes.
And one can view depression as ruminating upon the past and how different possibilities could have unfolded differently. And so, what happens when allowing the mind to exit the present is that we become disengaged not only with reality, because reality is only eternally now, but we also become disengaged with the body, with our physical vessel. And that just leads to a whole slew of issues. So pretty much, this is a generalization. I'm going to take a risk and say it. But, in becoming disassociated with one's body, one becomes disassociated with one's life, and with the magic that exists within all of our lives that is often just outside of our awareness because our presence is not empowered to its greatest degree. And so with body scan techniques, we're essentially focusing on different areas of the body, whether general areas or more subtle spaces, and typically going in a direction. Different techniques within this general branch, such as yoga nidra or yogic sleep. It is different than just a general body scan because it has different components depending on the specific yoga nidra. But that is to say, sometimes you can go from side to side, left to right, up and down, all around, so within, so without. But in doing this, one is connecting back to the body, becoming aware of one's sensations, possibly one's feelings, emotional state. And in doing so, in observing present sensations, one is connecting back to the present, anchoring back down, reeling in the mind once again that has perhaps gone off into non-existent places and spaces, aka the past and the future.
A reset.
So, yes, indeed. So body scans are great. There are close to infinite number of body scans online. I do them at the Vet Fests. I believe on my Facebook page, if anyone is viewing this close to the release date, and on my personal page, if you scroll down, or it's close to the top, I have a body scan that I've recently done. So yeah, body scans are everywhere. Body scans are great. That body scans can be beneficial both in the morning and the evening. In the evening, I found it delightful because it is very relaxing, very grounding, very just like mind calming, conducive for sleep. And then in the morning too, if my brain is already very sporadic and going in a million different directions, then in doing a body scan, I can recenter, reground, and then move more effectively throughout my day.
How long do these take, the body scans?
So definitely dependent. Body scans can be done in seconds.
Right.
You know, a standard meditation might be, I don't know, anywhere from like 5 to 15, 20 minutes. But then some more extended ones like these yoga nidras can go up an hour plus or 30 minutes. So really body scans, any increment of time that you have, you can find the delightful practice for you. So yeah.
Okay.
Indeed. And furthermore, the final little meditation technique that I want to touch on is referred to as metta meditation. That's METTA, also known as loving kindness. So with the loving kindness metta meditation, we are focusing on sending love and holding gratitude for different parties, for different people. So generally, to kind of like speak through it more succinctly and quickly, it would be something to the effect of cultivating or reflecting upon myself, perhaps focusing on aspects of myself that I'm grateful for, sending love to myself, then perhaps reflecting upon somebody close to me, somebody that I love and appreciate, holding gratitude for them, sending them love, and then perhaps a stranger, an acquaintance that I've interacted with recently or that I know of, the same process with them. Certain metta meditations, this is tremendously powerful, this next aspect, and more so for forgiveness and the transformative power that comes from it. But then doing it for somebody that I'm not too fond of.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, that's when you have to, forgiveness. It always involves that.
Yeah, indeed. So, you know, whether that's whoever. And then, yeah, same deal of reflecting upon them, perhaps having gratitude for some aspect or component of them, and then also sending them love. And then it just expands from there, whether it's your own community, your own city, nation, the world, the cosmos. And with the meditation, it's very powerful because really at the end of the day, love is the name of the game. You know, love is love. I need not explain love. and
Yeah.
so consciously connecting to love, you know, with love, for love, sending love, love is cultivated to a far greater degree than if we just go about our days not giving it as much attention. And I don't know about the specifics. This is speaking outside of my area of expertise, but I do believe that it has been studied and proven that cultivating gratitude and love through these meditations does change the brain.
I agree with that. And one of the things you brought up earlier about forgiveness, I think I've recognized that for a long, long time as something that is really beneficial to the person that does the forgiving. That's the real benefit, right? Because otherwise you're carrying this weight of unlove, the exact opposite of what you want to be cultivating, and carrying that around is a huge burden for sure.
Yes. There is I believe it is a Buddhist saying that says pretty much like holding on to anger, to hate, to resentment for another is as if drinking poison and expecting another, you know, to become ill from it.
Right, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Or like holding a hot coal and expecting another to burn, you know. So yeah, certainly forgiveness can be a tricky thing, but in addition to forgiveness, I don't know how much time we have.
We have like another minute or so.
Okay, so I'll close up with this. One of my favorites, Ho'oponopono, an ancient Hawaiian affirmation system used for forgiveness, self-reconciliation, 4 statements: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And just repeating this to oneself, or perhaps directing it to another, has tremendous benefit. So I'll just leave it for you to try out for yourself.
Okay. Yeah. I sure can. Any of these things. I mean, I think the whole idea of meditation and what you're telling us is just you're surrounding yourself with these words, these thoughts, and eventually they'll turn into actions. It's kind of like in your home, you like to put things on your walls that speak to you in a positive way. You don't want to put negative things on your walls in your house, right? Because
yes.
it's
Indeed,
the same idea.
Certainly. It's really, with all these techniques, one way that I'll describe it is a process of moving towards embodiment. You know, so if every day I'm cultivating internal peace through the practices, then throughout time I will begin to embody the peace and be the peace. If every day I'm focusing on sending love to myself and to others, then I will be able to greater embody love, you know, within myself.
Right.
For all.
That's excellent. That's a great place to leave it too, and that's a good theme for these videos. I think is that's what you're teaching folks to work towards, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So thank you very much, XYZo, and we'll have a link to your Facebook there, which I think is the best way to contact you, and also for the body scans. Is that what you call it, body?
Yes, for the body scan meditation.
Body scan. Okay, so that'll be on your Facebook timeline. So until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
You're welcome.